Live Live Podcast with your host, Jose Arqueta.
And we're back.
Live
We are
Live
back with another episode.
Podcast.
Thank you for tuning in. With that being said, this episode is brought to you by Revive Bar Beauty Aesthetics. I said it right.
Welcome to Revive Beauty Bar, where beauty meets wellness in the heart of downtown Salinas. Our expert team is dedicated to providing personalized care tailored to your beauty needs. Let's explore how we can enhance your natural beauty. I am here to assess your concerns and recommend the perfect solution. From rejuvenating Botox and RHA treatments to revitalizing skin resurfacing, we have it all to help you glow with confidence. In addition, our IV hydration and vitamin therapy ensures you feel your best from the inside out. Experience the art of medical aesthetics at Revive Beauty Bar. Book your appointment today and discover a healthier, more beautiful you.
And we're back. Hope you guys liked that video. Today is a special day. I have a special guest with me. All my guests are special, but this one is special. Special. It's another family member. We're not blood related, but to me, she's like family. The first time I met her, I was like, man, I like this person. You know, we clicked, we bonded, along with her husband, my compa Bernie. And I have a thing that when I meet somebody and me caen bien, I los apadrino como compadres. And that's what happened with them, you know. Her husband is a cousin of my wife, so that's how we met, and our friendship flourished from there on. And one of the things that I'm never going to forget was when I got sick, they went to go visit me at home. So for me, that means a lot. And it's a privilege to have her here and share her journey. So I'm going to go ahead and get the ball going. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Huh? Yes. Yeah, pues para allá iba, bro. We're good? Yeah, we're good. Oh, okay. So we're going to get the ball going. We were a little bit distracted by the producers behind the camera. But anyways, so obviously this podcast is with the purpose. And the purpose is to dive into stories that, you know, shape us as individuals and challenge us. And, you know, could be an inspiration for any of you guys that are tuning in, right? So today we welcome a woman who is the very definition of dedication and heart. She is a calm force in the middle of life's most chaotic moments. She's the voice on the other end of the line when people are at their most vulnerable. She's the lead dispatcher with over a decade of experience. And not only that, she's an academy instructor, a trainer, and an active member of the peer support team, helping guide and mentor the next generation of dispatchers. But Areli Sanchez is more than a title that she holds. She is a proud wife, married nearly 20 years to my compa Bernie, which is her best friend too, and a devoted mom on two lovely twin daughters who are just beginning their journey in high school. Her mission is to lead by example, to show her daughters the power and the focus of humility and believing in yourself even when the odds are tough. Her greatest accomplishment isn't just her career, it's in the way her family looks at her with pride. So she's not only balancing and demanding. Balancing a motherhood and with a demanding job, but she's thriving in both, while still chasing sunsets, cooking up delicious meals, and never forgetting to make time for what truly matters, which is family. So, ladies and gentlemen, get ready for this episode. And this is the one and only my comadrita, Areli Sanchez.
Hi.
Welcome, comadrita.
Thank you for that introduction.
You're
compa.
very, very welcome. Te lo mereces.
Gracias.
Te lo mereces. So I always have a gift for my guest, right? And this other sponsor that I have is Maria Hooks Jerky. Thank you for the beef jerky. If you guys are interested, hit her up on Instagram. She'll deliver it to your door, and she could ship to anywhere in the United States. So with that being said, comadrita, I got you a bag full of beef jerky.
Oh, Thank you.
I know you and the girls and my compa Bernie will love it.
I would love it. Do I open it right now?
That's up to you. But
Thank you,
yeah,
compa.
I know. I was like, hey, bring me variety. They're very delicious. I love them. Yeah.
Yeah, original.
Yeah, there's different
You know
flavors.
Bernie's going to tear these up with me. Lemon pepper.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, she's been doing it for, I want to say like 5-6 years también.
Local here in Salinas?
Yeah, she's local and she does it with love. She has all the permits because I know there's a lot of social. Yeah, ves que social media do like ¿de dónde lo hace or whatever, you know. She does it legit, all right. So no vayan a pensar allá. Yeah, she's one of our proud sponsors. She also sponsors Brunch con Amigas too.
Okay.
So yeah, it's a blessing to have her as one of our sponsors. También está Angelica from Rebind Beauty. Her episode is dropping. No, actually dropped already. So tune in and check it out, guys. I highly recommend it. She made me cry. Yeah, comadre. So with that being said, comadrita, let's get the ball going. So I usually want to know a little bit about my guest, right? And when I say about that is like, who is Areli Sanchez? You mentioned that you came to United States when you were 8 years old.
8 years old.
Right? Y vivías en la ciudad satélite?
Yeah. Ciudad Satélite, Naucalpan, which is like the equivalent of Gilroy to San Jose. Like big city, Mexico City, and then Satélite is like a smaller.
Is that like afuera del DF?
Yeah,
or
in el Estado de Mexico.
Oh, wow.
So just on the outskirts of the city.
Nice.
Yeah.
So you were there when you were small. And what led your family to move to the United States?
The main thing was my mom's health. So living in Mexico City, the altitude is really high. Yes. And after they discovered all her heart problems, the doctors recommended that she move somewhere where the altitude was closer to sea level. We had family here. My dad had been coming back and forth to work here. So his brothers encouraged him and said, hey, come to San Jose. We packed up our stuff. We came with like 3 suitcases, and that was it.
You guys left everything over there?
We left everything over there.
You guys still have the house over there? Or was that?
My parents sold it, I want to say like 15 years ago, maybe. They held on to it for a while. But we have my grandparents' houses and lots of family still there.
Oh, wow. Okay.
But yeah, imagine going somewhere with 3 suitcases.
Yeah.
3 little kids, all under the age of 8. And you're, what was that, early 30s?
Mm-hmm.
That's a big, huge thing to do, and to pack up your stuff and just leave.
Do you remember like what was going through your head when you were like packing like almost like Eid?
I thought we were going on vacation.
Really? They
Yeah.
never told you guys
No.
like where you guys going?
I mean, we had an idea, but it seemed like a temporary thing. Like, let's go check it out. It wasn't so much like, that's it. We're going.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So you guys get here and you're like, what? When are we going back? When did that hit? When did you ask your mom and dad, like, hey, ¿cuándo vamos a ir para atrás?
I think the first few weeks of school,
Yeah.
I would come home crying. I didn't like it because I didn't have any friends.
Yeah, all your friends were over there.
Yeah, all my friends were there. I was a very social girl. And the biggest thing was I couldn't communicate. I knew some English, but you know, you're little, you're 8.
Yeah.
So I remember riding the bus to school, first day of school. And I thought, well, how am I going to communicate if nobody's going to understand me? So I'm sitting there trying to put together the sentence of how I'm going to introduce myself to my teacher.
Really?
And I get there and I introduce myself in my, my broken English. And then the teacher turns around and starts talking to me in Spanish.
Oh.
So I had all this anxiety about, oh my God, how am I going to communicate? And then I get there and the teacher speaks Spanish.
When you started your journey at school, what did you guys have that program? Was it bilingual or primero era just Spanish?
My mom actually put me in an all English class. She said she said at the time she thought that was the best way for me to just learn it, to get comfortable with it. And so I started in an all English class, and then they would pull me out of class to do some ESL work, right? So that was 3rd grade, and I think by the time I got to 5th grade, I was reading at a higher level than the rest of the class. They were pulling me out to go do advanced reading, right?
Wow.
So I really pushed myself, but 8 years old. Like,
Yeah.
you should be worried about other stuff, not, all
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
So it was tough.
How was it culture-wise? Did you get a culture shock since going to school in San Jose? ¿Había raza or había
Sí,
un poquito
había
de todo?
raza, and my cousins went there too, to the same school. But
Oh.
I do remember feeling like, like I didn't belong. And I think that carried over into middle school even more. So it just felt like I had something to prove, and that was hard. And I remember kids picking on me in middle school, and one of the kids saying, why do you talk like that?
Because you had an
Because
accent.
I had an accent, and I worked really, really, really hard to try to get rid of that accent because I didn't want to feel that way.
I can even notice que tienes yo sí tengo un accent. Yo sí. There are certain words in English I can't say because when I went to elementary school here in Salinas, todas mis classes were in Spanish until they did that bilingual program.
Mm-hmm.
So they transitioned that like in 5th grade. So in 5th grade, for me, it was like a shocker. I was like, what the heck? I'm going to have to go from Spanish to English.
Yeah.
And little by little, I started going to English. It was hard for me. So yo no aprendí hasta como en 6th grade. Yeah.
Yeah, I think the later that you learn is, you end up having to work a little harder.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I started writing it like in 7th grade.
English?
Yeah. Porque in 6th grade, como que the teachers were having a hard way to how to transition from like the curriculum. Like, okay, how am I going to do it? Am I going to do Spanish in the morning and then English in la tarde?
Mm-hmm.
For the rest of the day? It was like a weird transition. But then my friends had all English classes. So the little bit of English that I knew was through them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's what they say, that you learn a lot from whatever you're learning at school.
I just learned the bad words. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, that was a big transition for you, for your sister and your brother.
Yeah.
Yeah. Growing up, who was your biggest influencers growing up in that stage through that difficulty that you were facing?
I think I just always looked up to my parents, right? Like, how do you go to another country and adopt yourself? And I would see my mom, even though she had health struggles, she would get things done.
Yeah.
She got a job at the school where we went. Because I don't know if you know, but she was a teacher in Mexico. So
Yeah, she did tell
coming
me,
here,
yeah.
she was doing teacher's assistant jobs. She didn't have teaching credentials here, so she did the next best thing, which was still to be in education. But I remember we took the bus for a long time everywhere because my mom didn't drive, and my dad was working all the time. And then eventually my mom got her license, and it was like one summer, her goal was, this summer I'm going to get my license. And she took classes, and then she took the test, and she got it done all in one summer.
Wow.
And she actually was, I think it's funny now, but she waited for my dad to go to Mexico
So
she could go get her license behind his back.
And
she did it.
Your dad didn't want her
I
to
think
get...
he was nervous for her to drive, and so she just kind of did her thing, and she's like, I'm not going to let anything hold me back. I'm just going to go for it.
So you went to the elementary school that she's currently at right now?
No.
Oh,
She worked at another elementary school across town.
okay.
Yeah, and then eventually she moved her way to that school.
Yeah. Oh, I forgot the name of it.
Corey, no,
Ni me acuerdo.
no, not Corey. It's something else.
Yeah. I'm going to stop by there just to say what's up. Because I know my colleague served at that school the last 2 years. So I'm going to stop by. Say.
Yeah, say what's up. My dad's the crossing guard there
Yeah,
too, right?
yeah. But cuando les hablé, I was like, hey, I'm going to get some sandwiches. Make sure you guys get some. And then la señora Rosa, la que está ahí, she's really cool. She's like, oh, Jose, the other girl va a venir. And I was like, que ya no vaya.
Save some for Pancho and Reina.
Yeah, I was like, que no vaya, you know what I mean? But I mean, I can't do that.
Yeah, no,
We're
I
working
know.
the same companies. So it's like, but I know that sometimes I service some teachers at across the street. There's a high school.
Yeah, that was the high school I went to.
See?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I know. I walk in. I was like, damn, it reminds me of the old school high schools.
In the movies.
Yeah,
That
yeah.
main building, right?
Yeah. I have a couple teachers there. My clients. Yeah, pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's where I went to high school.
What's it, Abraham?
Abraham Lincoln High School.
Lincoln's.
Yeah.
It's a nice area though.
Yeah,
Yeah,
very
porque,
nice
Around
area.
the corner está the Blossom or
The Rose Garden.
Rose Garden is really nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, you mentioned your parents were your biggest influencers, right, because of their hard work, dedication, and while growing up, going to school, did you have any aspirations that, like, as far as what you wanted to do with your life, or you want to go to college, or any goals that you had at an early stage?
Yeah, I always thought about going into medicine, right? I don't know why. And maybe as a result of spending so much time at doctor's appointments or at the hospital with my parents. Both of them have health problems.
Yeah.
And so in my mind, I was like, oh, I'll become a doctor. I want to give back in that way. And then I started thinking about how many years it takes to be a doctor. That and a couple other things that kind of got in my way. And I decided to try out community college instead. And then I met Compa Bernie, and we continued going to school together, even after we were married, which I think is kind of how I won over my suegro, because he said, oh, wow, she's motivating Bernie to stay in school and to do something good with his life.
So you met him at school?
No, we met through a friend that worked at Costco.
Oh, okay.
So my best friend, Vanessa, her then boyfriend, worked at Costco with Bernie.
Oh, okay.
So we met at a party. But I think that, life throws you curveballs. And in my mind, I knew that medicine wasn't it for me because I wasn't motivated to stay in school that many years.
Yeah.
And then I got distracted and school wasn't for me anymore. So, I just took a little break, a little permanent break, never went back.
I think we all go through that. We
Yeah.
all go through that. We get to a point where, like, is school for me? You know what I mean? You have those that actually do leave to school, universities, or whatever, or they do their 2 years of junior college and then they leave. But for a lot of us, I guess we never. I don't know. It's just after high school, it's kind of like, do I really want to go to school? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I tried it in myself, and I was like, nah, school's not for me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Not that it's not for me in a bad way that I was lazy, but it's just like sometimes it's just like, man, I want to do something else.
Something different.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and then you start earning money. You're young, right? You start earning money and you're maybe distracted by that a little bit.
Yeah.
Your goals are like, oh, I can do that later.
Yeah, exactly.
I think that's one of the things that I'm trying to tell the girls.
Yeah.
Hey, you guys are young. Take advantage while you can. Don't wait till you're in your 30s to try to go back to school. Do it when you can.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's a good advice, comadre. But también muchas de las veces I read this article. I forgot what it is, but I'll bring it up. If I find it, I'll put it on the post when I release this episode. Donde dice que muchos young people that go to school right after high school, they go to college, that by the age of 30, 32, 33, they realize that that's not the career they want to be at. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's like, whoa, So I think that sometimes, even if you don't want to go to college right after high school and you have your parents' support, at least try to figure out what you want to do because you still have time.
Yeah, you still have time.
Yeah, even though the clock is always ticking, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But at least,
I think in my opinion nowadays, everywhere you go to apply, they want at least a bachelor's degree. And so what I would encourage my daughters is at least go get your bachelor's.
Yeah.
If you decide not to pursue any other education, that's okay. But anywhere you go, they're asking for that as the minimum. Yeah. So, for some of us that have nothing, I don't even have an associate's degree.
Yeah.
So, if I could rewind the clock, I'd probably, and here we are. If I could rewind the clock and talk to my younger self, I would say, hey, take advantage of those years when you had less responsibilities.
Oh, you beat me to it, comadre, because at the end, I always ask my guests, like, if you go back in time, I'll let you talk.
I'll have more to say later. I'll have a lot more to say, compa.
Was there any on your early life that you faced a challenge that made you a strong person moving forward?
Yeah, so like a lot of families in California, all over the United States, we grew up with the constant fear of deportation. Yeah. Right? And it wasn't just my immediate family, it was other family members. And so there was a lot of things that we felt like we couldn't do. Speaking of education, right? Like, I think that was one of the things that held me back a little bit. And this is way before DACA. This is way before all these other programs. And so I think that there was always that, like, oh my God, is somebody, are we going to go back home, or are they going to go back home, family members? It's not a way to live. It is a very uncomfortable thing to feel like you aren't guaranteed tomorrow in this country, which is, I think, why I've taken so much advantage of becoming a resident and becoming a citizen and becoming involved in my community, because 30 years ago, I would never dream of being where I am today. And so I think that shaped me. I think that shaped a lot of my family, It caused problems, it caused tension, but it also, I think, helped us be grateful for the things that we have. So
you're the American dream.
Yeah. The American dream.
Yeah.
Trying to live that, but in my own way.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's what everybody gets, that misconception about what is the American dream. And I feel like the American dream is what you want to make of it, in your own way, like you just said right now. You took advantage, you did all we had to do, and you're serving your community, and look where you're at right now,
Yeah.
And trust me, I do understand not living in fear about it, but in a way, like right now, what's going on, right? All that, la raza, con ese miedo de, should I go to the store? Should I leave my house? Should I do this because of what's going on, unfortunately? And it's an ugly situation. But, it sucks. But I'm glad that you overcame that,
Yeah. It's always going to be with me, right?
Yeah.
A little bit of that is always going to be with me. But I think if you learn to overcome some of those challenges, you can accomplish so much.
Right.
And I feel like that's what I'm doing now. I feel like my goal is to set that example for my kids, set that example for my parents, right? My parents maybe have always been more like laid back and not wanting to jump into things. Yeah. Why not? Like you said, you don't have to be 20 to start something new, right? So
no, it's never too late to start something.
Exactly. Yeah.
All right, come on. Let's dive into what led you to get into your career that you're in right now. So, what inspired you to be a 911 dispatcher?
So I mentioned my parents had health problems, right? Yeah. And my mom had her first heart surgery when she was like late 20s, early 30s. And as a result of that, she had a lot of medical problems and continued down the road of other being diagnosed with other things. So I think I was maybe 10 or 11 the first time I had to call 911 to request an ambulance.
Right.
And at the time we were living in San Jose, and I remember the person on the phone just being super patient, walking me through everything, asking me all the questions. It wasn't until years later that I looked back on that and thought, was that kind of what sparked it? The other thing that I think led me down that path was putting all my skills together. So I'm bilingual. By that time, I had worked in customer service for a really long time. But more than anything was a sense of fulfillment. I didn't want to do a job where I walked away at the end of the day and I was like, okay, I'm done. I'm going to collect my paycheck, which is kind of where I was at right before I started this career. So I put all those things together. I was talking with my friends, and one of my comadres, her aunt worked at a dispatch center. And she said, hey, why don't you go sit with her? Go set up a sit-along. Go check it out, see what you think. And I went and I instantly fell in love. So
what was it exactly that it hit you right there? Like, okay, I want to do this when you were doing your...
It just felt like a really important job, right? And I like pumping myself up and feeling like I'm doing something important, right? And at that moment, I was like, wow, this person's in charge of telling people where to go, of answering the calls, of kind of guiding the whole process of what an emergency looks like. And I thought it was so interesting.
Yeah, we'll definitely dive into that, because that's one thing that I want people to be aware, that you're not just calling the 911 and someone is just there, No, they do more than that, And and I always been curious también. That's why I was like, I gotta have her on the podcast, because I want audience to see that there's more to it than just answering the phone and, all right, I'll send the cops or the ambulance. That's it, I want to see the behind the scenes.
There's a lot.
So that day that you did your sit along with that, for how many hours was it?
I think I went for 2 hours.
Oh, for 2 hours?
Standard, yeah.
Yeah, and this is 2 hours. How many calls did you got?
I don't remember exactly how many, but the way that center was organized was the call takers were doing that job, and then the dispatchers were doing another job. So I think I sat with the dispatcher, but I got to kind of see the workflow. The center that I work at, we do all of it.
Okay.
So we might be taking a traffic stop on the radio and giving CPR instructions at the same time.
Wow.
Like simultaneously. So
Damn.
a little bit different than what I experienced the first time, but.
Okay, so you fell in love with it right there, right? And then what was the next step? Like, okay.
The next step was starting to look to see where I wanted to work. And at that time, we hadn't bought a house yet. So the girls were like 2 years old. We're trying to figure out what's the next step. Can we afford to buy a house in San Jose? We started looking, and we knew that we could maybe buy a little shack in like the worst part of town.
East side San Jose?
East side San Jose. And this is when the market was still good. So you can imagine, right? Because we were young. We weren't making a ton of money. We were just starting out. So then Compa Bernie mentioned, what about Watsonville? What about let's move down the coast, right?
Right.
And I had to really consider it because it meant leaving my family behind. It meant leaving a bunch of my friends behind. Not behind, but just, like an hour away.
Yeah.
So you start trying to figure out who's hiring. At the time, the agency that I went to do a sit-along for wasn't hiring. Otherwise, I might have considered applying there. I started looking, and I went to Starbucks in Watsonville, and I sat there and waited for a cop to walk in. And then I approached them and said, hey, who dispatches for you guys? Because I couldn't find anything online about the dispatch center. Yeah. So I went just to Starbucks, just sitting and waiting. And eventually somebody did walk in.
How many cups of coffee did you have?
At least I wasn't at the donut shop, right?
Yeah, but how many cups of coffee did you have?
Oh, I don't know. Maybe probably like 2. So the process begins. At that time, I applied to 3 different places. It's a really long process. It's a lengthy background search. Interviews. They interview your family. They interview your neighbors. They interview.
Would you say it's like more extensive than like if an officer is applying to be a cop?
No, it's about the same.
It's about the same?
Yeah, it's about the same. The whole process takes about 6 months.
Oh, okay.
And so you're applying, you're going through the process, and it's not until the very end that you are told we would like to offer you a job or you didn't make it through the process.
Okay.
And so you're sitting there, you're just waiting to see what's going to happen. In the meantime, we're trying to figure out what our next move is, right? So your compa was patient enough with me to support me through that. While I was waiting, I also put myself through a basic dispatch academy in San Jose. And some agencies send their new hires to that academy.
Is that in South Bay Regional?
South Bay Regional, yeah. Which used to be at Evergreen College, but then they have their own training center.
Yeah.
Off of Coyote Valley, I think.
Yeah.
And so I did that. I think I did that with the intention of standing out from the other applicants. It worked. I learned really basic stuff there, but I stood out.
How did you feel knowing that you were the one that put yourself through that course on your own versus all the ones that were there that were sent by the agencies?
I was hoping to be in their shoes one day. I was hoping that somebody would see something in me that would want them to work with me.
So, comadrita, la gente que fue ahí is because they already got hired, so they went to the academy, right?
The majority.
So, but yeah. You didn't. You were not yet hired, but you put yourself through there.
Exactly.
So, once you got hired, you had to go through it again?
No, because where I work, we have an in-house academy.
Oh.
So, okay. But other agencies that don't have those in-house academies will send people there.
Oh, okay.
So, this whole time I'm like, maybe it was like a third self-sponsored is what they call it.
Yeah.
And then 2/3 from agencies. And so I'm sitting there thinking like, wow, I really hope that somebody sees something in me so that I can get hired. And just hoping and praying. And sure enough, I received 2 job offers. I chose the agency that I felt most connected with. And I've been there for 11 and a half years.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. So how was your first day?
Oh, I don't even remember. I was so stressed out. I honestly can't remember my first day.
Because you started as an assistant, huh?
Yeah, I started as a call taker, right?
Okay.
So you're learning just phones. And at that, non-emergency lines.
So it's a process to start.
It's a process.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you start as a call taker. What are like gases on the call taker? What are the calls that you take?
You answer, well, at the very beginning, you're answering non-emergencies.
Oh, okay.
So public works after hours or people calling about a car that's blocking their driveway.
Or noise complaint.
Or a noise complaint. Yeah. All the like very low priority things.
Right.
Nobody's getting hurt, all of that.
Okay.
And then you work your way into 911 calls. So 911 doesn't necessarily mean an emergency, right? A lot of people call 911 because they can't find the other numbers or they don't feel like looking for the other numbers, which, you know, it is what it is.
I feel like majority of the people don't even know there's a non-emergency
number. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and every agency around the United States has non-emergency numbers, but they are hard to find sometimes. So, you work your way up, non-emergencies to 911s, and then we introduce radio. And eventually you're doing 911s, non-emergencies, radio all at once, simultaneous.
¿Cuánto duraste en the non-emergency calls?
I did really well in call taking. So I would say total process less than 6 months to learn everything. And then I went to 911s. I think the call taking process, maybe I finished in 6 months, let's say.
Oh, wow.
Right?
So you were still on probation, huh?
I was still on probation. And then radio came. And I had worked myself up, right? I was super like excited about it and I thought I'm going to do great. And then I didn't do so great. I fell flat on my face during training and I took a step back and they allowed me to stay as a call taker for a little bit.
Oh, okay.
And just kind of marinade, right? Just sit there and do the job and get exposed to more stuff. And luckily I had an opportunity to do that. Some places will just
Let you go.
That's it. And so I came back to it. I came back stronger. I came back ready, prepared, not as scared, and I did really great. So,
wow. So, okay. So, call taker, I don't really want to get into it because it's not emergency. So, it's like just basic calls.
yeah, basic calls.
And then you move to 911.
Yes.
A ver, break it down to 911. How is it? Like, what is it like for our audience to know, like, what goes behind it? Like, somebody calls and it's like emergency. Hey, mi mom está tirada en la cocina. What do I do? Like,
The very first thing we're going to want to know is where. With the 911s, we have a couple of location programs that we work with. So we have a general idea of where a person is, but we always need to verify an exact location.
so when they
Right.
call, like, you guys get the
It's a ping. It looks like a ping.
like where the so you guys have like a map or
Yeah, we have a couple of maps.
wow.
So those maps will show us the general idea of where you are. But what if you're at the mall? How are we going to know what store you're in? Or what if you're at an apartment complex? How are we going to know what apartment number, right?
So the phone sends a signal?
Yeah, the phone sends a signal to the cell phone towers, and those signals bounce back, and it basically gives us a location.
I thought it was just based on whoever's calling, giving the address, and you guys are like,
No,
boom.
no. Thank God it's not that way.
Damn,
Yeah.
yo no sabía. That's what I'm learning. You know?
Yeah, it's very advanced
So
technology.
as soon as somebody calls 911, you already got the ping and you want to confirm.
Yeah. We're going to confirm the location. Where are you? Right? House, apartment, business, at the park. We want to know where you are, exactly where you are. And then we're going to figure out what type of emergency are we dealing with. Is this a medical emergency? Is this a fire? Is this a law enforcement matter? It can be all three, right? So we're trying to figure out which of them is this to begin with. And then the very next thing that we're going to want to know is safety stuff. So responder safety stuff. Does anybody have any weapons? Is anybody acting where they're hurting somebody? And then obviously down the road we get into other things.
So it all comes down to the location and then how it goes after that, where you guys take the plan of attack.
Yeah, what type of emergency is this? Is this strictly medical? Are we going to go down that route? Or is this somebody that just got stabbed? And now we have the medical part and the law part.
Oh, wow.
Where's the bad guy with the knife, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is anybody still in danger? Or did that person leave? And so we kind of come to the fork in the road and we're like, we know we have to get an ambulance there quickly because this person could bleed out. But at the same time, we want to make sure everybody's safe to be able to go in and help them
And
out.
all this happens in a matter of seconds.
Moments. Yeah, it's very, very fast.
How long it took you to be able to respond that quick? Did you have like a cheat sheet at the beginning?
We had guidelines.
Like when
Yeah.
si alguien te habla, hey, I'm having, I don't know, a heart attack. I don't know if I'm having a panic attack or a heart attack. And it's just like, do you go like a little cheat sheet or get...
Well, I mean,
I don't know.
so for the law enforcement questions, we have guidelines, right? And
okay.
eventually you're like, oh, these questions are very similar from one law call to another. The medical calls we handle differently. We have a program that we use where we are scripted. And so if you say you're having a heart attack, I have I'm looking at a screen that's giving me all the phrases that I'm going to use.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Which is cool, right?
Yeah.
But that's just for medicals. Everything else, we go based on our guidelines.
Mm-hmm. But do you feel like at this point that you've been there for so long that you already know what's up?
Yeah, I don't have to look at my notes anymore.
Yeah, you already know?
I already know. I could do it in my sleep.
Wow.
Well, that's what I'm doing now is I'm teaching the people that are coming in. I'm teaching them the job. So I'd be worried if I couldn't, do most of the stuff without having to think about it.
Did you ever have the person that taught you? Did they taught you like a certain way how to do it, or were they flexible with you? Were they were patient with you? That maybe now that you're the lead trainer, you take that an account and you try to be more of a leader, like a guide for them.
Yeah. All the learning that I did was done based on policy. So I always try to go back to that. Right. At the end of the day, we want to protect ourselves. And how we do that is by sticking to policy. But you're right. There's also that human element.
Yeah.
And so, yes, I try to be that person. My agency, thankfully, also has a peer support group. And so what that group does is we check in on each other. We check in on the employees, making sure that they're taking care of themselves.
They're not getting burned out.
That they're not getting, maybe some of that burnout is inevitable with the hours that we work and all the overtime we have right now. But while you're in that, washing machine churning around of this overtime and all these long shifts and working nights, what else are you doing to take care of yourself? So we check in on everybody, including the new hires. We try to really kind of put a blanket around them, make sure that they're taking the right steps to take care of themselves.
I like that. I like that you guys have the support system.
Yeah,
And it's much needed because I had a friend of mine, I think it was the third episode. He was a sheriff. And based on the conversation we were having in the episode, he had no support. And the fact that you guys have that and take that into account, that means a lot. Porque sí se ocupa. Because you might get a call, which I'll ask you right now, if you ever got a call that it hit you, or you're working 12 hours plus. Well, okay, so you're working 12 hours. That's your regular shift, right?
Yeah.
And then when does overtime kick in? How many hours is that after?
So our overtime is on our days off. So, and we have to sign up for it.
Oh,
so
you have to.
It's mandatory overtime. And so sometimes we bunch together our overtime to protect other days. So we could be working 10 days in a row, 11 days in a row, 7 days in a row. And so if you can imagine a regular 4-day, 12-hour work week, that's already 48 hours. That's already 8 hours more than the average person works. Yeah. And let's add another 36 hours to that in the form of overtime. Yeah. And so I'm sure you can imagine what I'm feeling at the end of that work week.
Oh, yeah.
It's a lot. Been very lucky to have patients.
But Bernie,
I know.
You better get her a day spa all day, bro. Right? Massage, facial, todo, right, bro? No, comadre.
But also shout out to him and shout out to the girls, right? Yeah. He holds down the fort when I'm not there. And side effect of working this type of job is I've had to miss a lot of things. And that weighs heavy on my heart, but also I know my kids are super, super proud of what I do.
Yeah.
So
how do you deal with that, comadre? Because I've been to events, family events donde no estás trabajando, And yeah, it kind of sucks, but you know, how do you overcome that feeling, you know?
I think about the fact that somebody has to be there to do that job.
Right.
And what if we had an emergency and nobody was there to answer that call? How would we feel if we didn't have that service available to us? And I try to make the times that I have with them extra special. You know, sometimes I spoil them and I do things that I probably shouldn't.
Yeah.
You know, but I have to.
Right.
Yeah.
Comadre, was there a call that ever impacted you that you took home and you were like, you couldn't shake off for a couple of days?
Yeah.
I mean, if you're okay sharing it.
Totally.
Yeah.
And obviously,
I don't want you to get in trouble with the.
No. All this is completely without giving any names or anything like that. And actually, the call that comes to mind has nothing to do with like law enforcement. It's actually a medical call that came in, and the first thing the caller said was, "My dad's not breathing," and so I jump into action. Right, I launch a call for service. I open up my program that I know I'm going to have to use to stick to the script. I hear what we call agonal breathing, which is like a gurgling sound in the background. And at that point, I know he's probably beyond any help. I don't know any pre-existing stuff, right? So I don't know what led up to that point. And I'm trying to give the lady on the phone instructions in English because she speaks English. But in the background, in between these instructions, I hear her talking to him and saying, "Papi, it's okay, papi." And it hit me because it reminded me of my relationship with my dad. And I started thinking, wow, like that's probably what I would sound like if I was in that position. And I had to take a couple minutes off the floor after that because it just hit me super hard. I knew he had passed based on what I heard. And I was trying to give the family a little bit of hope by trying to walk them through CPR instructions, which I can imagine is probably also very difficult. And again, I didn't know the backstory. I didn't know if the person was terminally ill or had been dealing with health problems. It just hit really close to home how she was talking to me in English and then switching over to talk to her dad in Spanish. And I could tell the whole family was there. So...
Do you feel like a lot of people that call 911 are unaware that there's bilingual people working?
Yeah, all the time. All the time we get people that maybe are afraid to call because they don't think they're gonna get the help that they need in the language that they speak.
I only had one bad experience when I called 911. The dispatcher was really rude. Pero then again, ya ahorita que pasaron los años, I'm older. I don't know if she was burnt out or she had a long day or she was working overtime. I don't know. You know what I mean? But I remember talking to her and she was just asking me all these questions and she kept repeating herself. She was being a little bit aggressive. I thought at that moment she was being aggressive, but then again, I don't know. She was just trying to get the right information out of me to speed up the process on her.
She might have been listening to you. And trying to type at the same time and also talking to the responders.
Yeah.
Depending on what you were reporting.
Ni me acuerdo. I was calling on behalf of a neighbor, but but I mean, I guess it was not experienced, but te estoy preguntando, you know what I mean? So that was one experience that you faced, right, that you took home. Any wild stories as far as helping law enforcement, like, you know, dispatch and stuff like that, where, you know, I don't know if you guys help out, like, the guy's on pursuit. He's on this street, or I don't know if you guys do that.
Yeah, we do. And you know what the cool thing about that is, most of the agencies that we work for have GPS in their cars. So
you get to see where
I get to see where they're going, and I know where they're approaching. And I remember working a pursuit in Watsonville, in my own neighborhood. And I was like, "This is cool. I know exactly where they're at. Oh, they're coming up to this street. I know, you know, and I can picture it. But we don't always have the luxury of knowing the neighborhood very well, right? So we use technology, and then we kind of ask for help in the room. Hey, I'm working this event, or people notice, right? You're working this event. They'll take other things off your plate so that you can focus on that.
Engaging video content can drive your business forward. We specialize in creating professional corporate videos and commercials tailored to your brand. Collaborative ideas help display your vision. Let's elevate your business today. LC1 Productions, crafting stories that matter.
Do you have like a cubicle, or is it like a sitting spot, or do you get to stand up, or like what?
It's a desk, and in a room with 15 desks, and they're all organized by what we do. So we have fire in the middle of the room, fire and AMR, and then all the law enforcement agencies on the outside. Our
Like a
desks,
circle.
like a semicircle. It's like a big U. Our desks are ergonomic. They're great, so we can stand them up. We can lower them. We can like push the desk in, pull it out, and then our monitors go up and down.
How many monitors do you have?
Oh, 1, 2, 3, 4, up to 6.
Damn.
Yeah.
So how you had some up?
So there's like 4 here and then another 2 up here.
Wow.
Yeah. It's pretty cool. You should come do a sit along.
I am. I'm gonna take the producer. We could record. I don't know if they let us record, but
I don't know if they let you record, but
I'll take the little camera and keep.
a hidden camera.
Hidden camera. No, I'm all picturing right now. I was like, whoa.
Yeah.
You know?
It's pretty cool.
Yeah. Did you ever have like a call where you like help somebody deliver a baby?
I did, but the outcome wasn't positive.
Oh, okay.
So, and that one happened to be in Spanish, which I think probably one of my proudest moments is being able to help people in the Spanish-speaking community
Right.
through whatever it is. But that one was hard because later I found out that the baby didn't make it. So,
what about like a gunshot wound where you're like helping the person put pressure on the wound? Yeah. All that. So you've done everything.
I've done all those things.
Damn.
Yeah.
After the call ends, like, what do you do after that? Do you go decompress or you just keep going?
Depends on what the rest of the room looks like.
Yeah.
Right? We might be working that major incident, but the phones are still ringing and we have to continue picking them up. Wow. So if it's something super, super intense where I'm like affected, like the medical that I shared with you, I will ask for a minute off the floor. But most of the time, the adrenaline's pumping so hard, we just keep going. We just on to the next thing. Wow. So.
Okay.
Or it could be 2 emergencies at the same time, right?
So how do you juggle that? Like, tienes una llamada aquí and you have another one right here. Like, how do you do that?
Life or death over.
I don't know. I mean, you mentioned that sometimes you're talking to somebody and then you're instructing how to do CPR to somebody else. Like.
So we have we wear headsets, obviously, and our headsets have microphones, and that microphone's connected to our phone system when we're on the phone, and it's also connected to the radio when we're off the phone. In order to connect with the radio, we use a pedal. So when I step on that pedal, my voice transmits over the radio, and I can still hear my caller, but my caller can't hear what I'm saying. So by talking on the radio, it mutes the call.
The call.
Well, it mutes the voice going out to the caller, my voice, but I can still hear what the caller is saying.
That's crazy.
So it's pretty cool, and it involves kind of being aware of all your senses. You get really good at paying attention to things that most people don't pay attention to. So background noises, the tone of a person's voice. Do they sound like they're in distress for any reason?
Wow.
Yeah.
So you could tell, like, even if you like bump into somebody at Starbucks, you could tell, like, on the tone of the voice, cómo se siente.
¿Qué está pasando a little bit? Yeah.
Whoa. That's awesome. Do you use that with Compa Bernie and the girls?
I mean, no, I
We're
try to shut it off
Are you
when I
giving
go
me
home.
attitude? Are you giving me
What's
attitude?
happening?
Yeah. No, so you shut it off. You leave it at work and you get home.
I've been trying to work on that.
Oh,
right.
okay.
So many years I was like, I always have to be doing everything perfectly because somebody needs me within a second's notice, and I have to be able to make a decision. Right. If you're in that work mode all the time, you don't give your body a chance to rest.
Yeah.
And so I was constantly like, I have to have all the answers for everything all the time. And eventually I felt the stress. So Compa and I talked and I was like, I need to learn how to shut that off.
Yeah.
So I try to give myself space now, right? When I'm not at work, I don't want to be thinking about work stuff. I don't want to be like processing work stuff. I want to be able to spend the time that I have with my family.
It's crazy because my prima, she had the same issue. She's a cop for Gilroy. I had a hard time turning off that switch as soon as I walked in at home. Until my husband told me, so like, hey, aquí mando yo, you know what I mean? Allá afuera tú puedes hacer a Superman, but aquí it's my domain, you know? So
Yeah.
leave that
So
outside.
check it at the
yeah.
door.
So, pues para ella it was hard, you know?
Yeah.
It was hard, and she was able to do it. She's still working through it, you know?
It's hard. And sometimes your family points it out to you.
Yeah.
And sometimes you catch yourself. And sometimes you notice it all on your own, right?
Yeah.
But when I first started this, the investigators all said to Bernie, are you ready for this? Are you ready to support her through whatever happens? And that extended to my suegros too. They even had a conversation with them. I'm so
Mm-hmm.
thankful for all the support of Bernie and his parents who basically helped raise the girls like they were their own.
Yeah.
Because when we've both had to be at work, they've had somebody to be with. And you can see it in my suegros' eyes, right? They're so proud of their girls.
Yeah.
They basically helped raise them. So
Do you feel any type of way, Coma, because of your work that you missed out a lot and your sueros, took that? They didn't took it away from you because they wanted to, but it's because of your work. Do you feel like sometimes get the pega, like that
Yeah.
sentiment, like fuck?
it does, and I think at the end of the day, what did I do this for, right?
Yeah.
Was it worth it? But then I also think a lot of kids don't get time with their grandparents like they have.
True.
And so it's been kind of a blessing in disguise, right? They have such a special bond with their abuelos that I would never want to take that away from them. And I don't know if it would be the same if they hadn't been forced
Yeah.
by the circumstances to spend all this time with them. So yes and no, because I want to see the more positive side of that, but I know how important time with the grandparents is.
Do you ever have that talk with the girls once in a while where it's just the three of you girls there and you're like, hey, I know I'm not around that much, but just know that I do love you and I do this for you girls. And do you ever have that talk with them? No que as a reminder towards them, but as for them to as appreciation, like, she still looks out for us. You know what I mean? Do you ever have that?
I do. I take advantage of that time when it's just us because, girls tend to bond with their mom differently than they do with their dad. They know I'm not just out partying on the weekends when I'm not there with them. It's because I'm actually doing something really important. Right. So, yeah, we have that conversation all the time, but they also know that they can come to me with whatever they need. And it's coming to that age where, there's things that are popping up, talking about boys and talking about other things. And I'm really lucky to say that they've grown up to be really responsible kids. I have faith that they're going to make good decisions.
Yeah.
That they have aspirations and that they have things that they are looking forward to in their future. So,
and also this is a good statement that you have a good support system, and it's needed, and se necesita ese support system, and this type of job that you do, even for law enforcement, firefighters, paramedics, EMTs, doctors that are working crazy hours, and you don't have that much time with the family. I mean, obviously we do see a high rate of divorce, separation because of that. So I'm glad to know that you have a good support system.
Yeah.
That says a lot.
It's hard to ask for help, but
yeah, not only that, but it gives you the opportunity to enjoy your job.
Yeah.
Because you enjoy it, right? You love it.
I love it.
Yeah. What is something that people don't understand about dispatchers and the work that you guys do?
So I think the thing that I see most is people call, and maybe they're in the heat of the moment, they're dealing with whatever they're dealing with, but they think that somebody's going to show up like that. And that the questions that we're asking are stupid or dumb. All the questions we're asking have a purpose. Right. Obviously, we talked about location, right? That being the number one thing, but there's a number of other things that we're going to ask in order to give you instructions on what to do next. And so I think the misconception is that the firefighters or the ambulance or the cops are just waiting down the street for you to call. Like if you think about how much area those services cover, it's highly unlikely that they're going to be right down the street. And so I would say to the public, hopefully they will find some patience and realize that we're not asking questions just to ask questions. But we're also, the responders have to drive there. So
Yeah. And you guys are like the first line of response, right? In reality, technically, you guys are, because even though it's just a phone call, you guys are the first ones.
yeah, and we set the tone for what's going to happen next.
Yeah.
I've talked to suicidal people,
Oh, wow.
and
How did that go?
well, I mean, I've won some and I've lost some, you know.
Really?
And so having that interaction can set the tone for what happens next. Some people are set on what they're going to do, and other people are asking for help.
What would be your conversation? Talk to somebody that wants to commit suicide.
I would introduce myself and be honest and say I'm calling because somebody was concerned about you, and I want to offer you some help. And not be like, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. I'm not going to be overly nice.
Yeah.
I'm not going to be making them feel like, oh, poor me, right? I'm going to be straight to the point, but let them know that I'm here to support them.
Do you ever found some of those individuals like vent out with you? They cuentan toda la historia,
Yeah.
their life story. And you're like, fuck.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they do. And that's the thing. Some people just need someone to hear them out,
Hear 'em out, huh?
somebody to listen to them. We don't have enough people that are there to listen sometimes.
So, what keeps you grounded on one of your hardest days at work? Like, what keeps you grounded? Your family, or
Yeah, I would say my family.
knowing that you're going to go home and you're like,
No, I think my family. I think knowing that I'm doing a service to the community, remembering that one day I was the person calling in for help
yeah,
and feeling like that person really supported me, and basically not taking anything personal.
Right.
It's never about me. The things that I'm dealing with on the phone, it's never about me. It's always about the caller.
ever had
So,
somebody tell you off over the phone?
Yeah.
Really?
Tell me off, say racist things. Yeah. Yeah. So at the end of the day, it's not about me.
Yeah.
Whatever they're dealing with might lead them to say those things, but I don't take it personal.
You're just like,
Yeah.
You're all sipping your coffee.
Pretty much.
All right, comadita. Let's move towards life beyond the headset. So, we talked about balancing your job and being a wife and being a mom after working long shifts, right? Like, how do you do it?
It's rough. It's rough. I'll just give you an example, right? I work 1 p.m. to 1 a.m. I get home at 1:30. I'm asleep by 2. I have to be up at 7:30 to take the girls to school. So that's 5.5 hours. And then I have to do other things, right? And pretty soon noon rolls around and I have to leave for work again. So time management is really crucial. I would like to say that I am a person that requires a lot of sleep, but over the last 10 years, I've not been able to sleep as much as my body needs it. You know, like we were talking about earlier with people that work weird hours, or like your compa, he doesn't get enough sleep.
Sleep, compa, sleep.
Yeah, sleep. So I just have to try to organize my life a little bit better.
Okay. Time management is a big key for everybody's lives.
Yeah,
that's
time management, meal planning. Even if you can't get enough rest, if you're feeling your body, right? Sometimes I have trainees that show up to work with no food, and then they're like, "Well, I'll just order food," but you're not planning ahead to feel your body, and 12 hours is a long time, right?
Yeah.
So I try to come to work prepared with whatever I'm going to need for the shift. And then when I'm outside of work, soaking up those moments, right? So trying not to be so serious, try not to be like uptight or like being on that I have to have all the answers mode. I don't have to have all the answers. I'm human too, so.
Right. Damn.
Yeah.
So, también you mentioned that you've been married over 20 years with Compa Bernie, you know, and he's been a big pillar towards your career, right? As they're working long shifts, you know, holding the fork at home. You know, would you say there would be anything different that you would take away from that, or is just?
I think anybody with a marriage this long would tell you that there's bumps in the road and there's ups and downs. And I think that we've done our best to try to push each other.
Right.
I would say that I would probably going back or looking back at the last 10 years since I've been doing this job, I would prioritize my time with him more.
Right.
it's not just about the four of us family time, but there has to be some time just as a couple. Yeah.
Tell me about the twins. How do
The twins.
How do they inspire you, comadre?
The twins, I like to see life through their lens, right? They get so excited about things. And when they love something, they want to put their all into it. Like we were talking about them joining the golf team. Right? That started out kind of as a hobby. And last season they did great. Freshmen, they were playing at varsity level. Their team won the first championship in their division in the history of the school.
Oh, nice.
So there were like 3 or 4 freshmen on that team. And so I just like to see things through their lenses of how excited they get to experience new things, how excited they get to try out new foods. I don't know if you know this about us, but we're big foodies.
Yeah.
So we like to go try out different restaurants. Tomorrow we're going to San Francisco.
Nice.
We're going to go do some touristy things, but also I'm going to let them choose what we're going to eat.
Nice.
So
I know you guys are foodies because también mi wife le gusta comer.
yeah.
What are some of the family traditions that keep you all connected?
Family traditions. I mean, the regular holidays, obviously, but also we try to go on vacation at least once every 2 years, like a big vacation. The girls love going to anywhere in Mexico. They just love it. But I would say that. I would say, I mean, I don't know how many other traditions we really have.
No, but something that is unique for you four.
For us four?
Yeah. I mean, aside from the Christmas, Thanksgiving, aside from all that tradition, algo que ustedes tengan que es intimate for you guys, that you guys have something. It could be like a family travel, vacation.
I would say that. I would say that we try to take advantage of like spring break or even in the summertime. But, you know, sometimes it's hard to coordinate with our schedules, my schedule, Bernie's schedule. But I would say, yeah, every 2 years maximum, we're taking a big trip with the girls. And now they're at the age where they can start exploring other places. So we're thinking Europe, we're thinking Japan, right? We're thinking like other countries. But I think that bonds us together. We love to be out exploring.
Comadre, what is one thing that you do when you get home to unwind? Let's say you did mention that you get off for work at 1, you get home at 1:30, go to sleep by 2, you're up early, take the girls to school. But let's say on your day off, what is the one thing that you do to unwind? Did you sleep in?
I love to sleep, yeah. Even before I did this job, that was like one of the things that I love to do, take naps, all that stuff. I would say I have a couple guilty pleasures. So to unwind, I watch reality TV sometimes. Shows like The Bachelor. Or there's one right now, something Millionaire. I don't remember the name of it. But that stuff kind of takes me out of reality, right? I live in their world for a little bit. And then recently I discovered books on tape or audiobooks.
Yeah.
So like I'll put on an audiobook on the way home.
Oh, nice.
You know, or on the way to work. And it just kind of helps me like get in a different mindset.
Yeah, kind of like tone it down a lot.
Yeah.
I know I have this, because obviously the name of the podcast is Live Life Podcast. And I've always, every time that I do like a post on Instagram, I always tell everybody, live life to the fullest, because uno nunca sabe. You never know, right? One of the things that I got from my buddies, 2 things we got guaranteed in life is that we got to pay our taxes and debt, right?
You can say that again.
What does living life with purpose mean to you?
Living life with purpose. Living life with purpose means making decisions that are going to affect others in a positive way. And I try to be that example for my kids. I try to be that example for like I was saying, the new dispatchers that come in. Nothing in life is guaranteed, like you said. So why are we going to waste our time with the negative or, you know, pointing out just the bad stuff? Right. And sometimes you can turn a bad situation into a good situation by simply pointing out the positives. Right. So I try to do that. I try to not be grumpy and tired all the time. And, you know, I know I have some work to do on myself, and some of my goals are, personal goals are like losing weight, getting more sleep, eating healthier. But I would say in general is enjoying the moment. and not taking yourself too seriously.
Yeah. Mari, right now that you said that, do you feel pressure sometimes that because of the job that you have, it just sometimes makes it difficult for you to like get that journey of losing weight or that steps to get like an hour, 2 hours more sleep? Because you have mom duties, you have housewife duties. Tengo que lavar la ropa, I have to clean the kitchen, I have to wash the dishes, I gotta take the girls to school. Do you feel pressure or you just go with the flow?
I think I do feel all that pressure. And for years, I've just made that my excuse, right? And so I think it's time to let go of all those excuses and figure out what is the real problem. It could be a number of things, right? But yeah, my schedule plays a huge part in the things that I do and don't do. And so when we're talking about 5 hours of sleep versus 7 hours of sleep, or 5 hours of sleep and then I go drop off the girls and come back and sleep 2 more hours, like that is a huge difference because I know that I still have 2 or 3 more days of work left for that work week. So excuses because I've seen other people do it. I know it can be done. You know, I watched other people on all their journeys. So I know it can be done. My husband, Bernie, he's shown all of us what, like, I know he's back to having gained some weight, but for a long time he was doing like double days at the gym.
Yeah.
And so no excuses, right? If you want to do it, you can. I just have to like set my mind to it.
At Juan Avila Photography, we specialize in capturing decisive headshots and portraits that tell your unique story. Serving Salinas, Monterey County, and beyond, our high-quality images reflect your professionalism and authenticity. Whether for corporate teams, executives, or personal branding, let us elevate your image with headshots tailored to your needs. Book your session today.
Pero yo digo, I asked you that question because a lot of people, work 8 to 5. It's not 9 to 5. I don't know why everybody says 9 to 5. It's 8 to 5. 8 to 5. Siempre, 9 to 5. No, it's 8 to 5. If you're going to work 8 hours, it'll be 9 to 6. But no, it's 8 to 5 people, right? Anyways, a lot of people work 8 to 5 or like you got law enforcement, with careers like that with long hours. En veces siento que the pressure of like, man, I want to rest, but then I want to spend time with the family. Like they sacrifice those hours of sleep. They sacrifice that let me go for a walk and all that. It's just like, but at the end of the day, we I don't know if we are aware that it's going to impact us in the long run or we just choose not to see it. You know what I mean? Does that make sense what I'm saying?
Yeah. I think people are in denial.
Yeah.
I see it with your compa, with the hours that he works. It's denial because studies show that if you don't get enough rest, coupled with other things, it can lead to health problems.
Yeah.
So the truth is there, right? People have done studies on it. It's in the moment, we're just in denial.
Yeah.
I usually choose to take sleep over sometimes some of the things that I have to do.
Right.
So there's times when my house is a little messy or, I didn't cook dinner and we're going to eat dinner out somewhere. But I try not to be too hard on myself over those things because
you can't because at the end of the day, I feel that your health matters most. And if you have that communication with your family where they see that you're tired or their mom is asleep, you know what? This is an example, I'm not saying that, pero mi compa puede decir, ¿sabes qué, mija? Tú lavas los trastes, yo trapeo, instead of like, maybe being the opposite, we're like, oh my God, otra vez no hizo nada,
Yeah.
And just like they sit down
and we
chill.
do, like, we're a pretty good team with that,
that's
but
awesome.
also they have really busy schedules.
Yeah.
So now we're throwing like all
Yeah.
that together, and sometimes it's disaster. Sometimes things don't get done, and I have to be okay with that, and they're okay with that. It is what it is,
Or you could hire a maid.
Or I could hire a maid. There's an idea.
Yeah, why not?
Instead of a spa day, can you get me a maid service?
I know,
Bernie?
compa, Bernie, maid service. What advice would you give to someone that they feel stuck in their career or in their life? Kind of like how you felt going paycheck to paycheck until you made the decision. Like, what advice would you give to someone?
I would say evaluate, right? Evaluate where you're at financially. What changes can you make? Because life isn't just about making more money, right? If you take yourself down a path of enjoying what you do, the money will come and in different forms. But if you're solely focused on money, and you're miserable, that's going to continue for the rest of your career. So I would give the advice of find something that makes you happy, find something that makes you feel fulfillment, find something you're good at, right? Put all your skills together and then figure out what does that look like in a career. If your thing that you want to do requires you to go back to school, make it happen, right? And don't wait any longer. Just get it done.
What about for anybody out there that are thinking about jumping into the dispatching career life? What advice would you give them?
The advice I would give is do your homework. Do your homework on the type of agency that you want to work for. Not all agencies are the same. Some agencies are 2 to 3 people working on one shift. Other agencies are 10 to 15 people working on a shift. Do you want to dispatch just law? Or do you want to dispatch law, fire, EMS?
Oh, wow, so there's different.
So there's different centers that do different things.
See, I didn't know that. I thought it was just all in one.
No, some places are strictly law. Some places are strictly fire.
So you guys do everything?
We do everything.
Oh, wow. That's crazy.
Yeah. And go do sit-alongs. Anybody can do a sit-along. You just have to call the office of whatever agency you want to check out. You don't necessarily have to sign the dotted line to apply for a job before you can do that. You can say, hey, I'm kind of interested in doing a sit-along. So it's the best way that you can do your homework is going to check it out.
During your career, since you guys offer those 3 services, do you have a favorite one? Did you like more?
I learned law first. So dispatching law for me, I think will always have a really special place. But I see how exciting it is to dispatch fire and EMS. So I'm kind of in the middle, but I would say if I had to pick one, probably law, because that's where I feel the most comfortable.
So in EMS and fire, well, EMS, you gotta let them know the location, what type of incident's going on, because they're getting ready to rock and roll when they get there, right?
Exactly. And we have something called a pre-alert where we give them a little heads up. Hey, you guys are about to get this type of call. Obviously that can change, but if we give them that heads up, they can start kind of prepping for that type of incident.
Right. I used to think Monterey County has their own EMS dispatching, no? Or,
They do.
They do. But allá donde estás tú, it's a whole different thing, or is it the same one? Or
No, we're all in the same room, same center. It's all the same people working.
Oh, okay. So
services.
you are the ones that do it in Monterey.
No. Oh. We're separate from Monterey.
Oh, okay.
Monterey, I think they're in the same center. They're just in a different part of either the different part of the office or different part of the building.
Yeah, because I was curious. I remember a while ago I did my my EMT hours. I did a ride along with the ambulance. And I was always curious, I'm like, ¿quién son? Are they the real dispatchers, or this is like the dispatch only for EMS only? You know what I mean?
I would say they're still real dispatchers.
Yeah. Well, not I mean in that way, but they go like nada más cater to EMS.
They I think they only do that one thing.
Because sometimes they'll get the call and they'll be like, hey, ambulance M32, please report to station in Soledad, and then we'll go to Soledad. We'll be there for like 4 or 6 hours, no calls, and then all right, EMS 32 report back to Seaside. I almost said Seaside. You know, no calls. Nada.
I think that you're talking about what's called station coverage.
Yeah. I was like, ever that day, but I get no calls. I was like, nah.
You're just there. Cool. You're basically there on standby.
But I felt lucky because I know that there was other guys that did the ride-alongs. They were like, dude, I saw this, I saw that. What did you see? Nah.
I mean, you never know what you're going to get.
So me really aburrido. And I was like, dude, you guys do this all day when you guys don't get no calls? Like, yeah.
Sometimes.
I was like, damn, bro, hell no. I was like, yeah, but I guess I got lucky that.
It depends, right? Yeah. You would have exposed yourself to seeing something maybe you didn't want to see.
Yeah, pero that's true.
Yeah.
That's true. But then I remember that when I did the hospital hours, that was a whole different thing. I was like, I saw so many stuff that I remember I told Gabby, ¿sabes qué? I'm out.
Really?
She's like, dude, you're just doing this.
That did it.
Yeah. Like, dude, excuse me, miré mucho in the ER that it was just like, I saw, it's just, I got to push the dead body to the decontamination room, the cooler, you know. I was like, what?
You see a lot of stuff. Yeah. Let's think about it. We hear it.
Yeah.
And then we come up with our own version of how things look.
Yeah.
Right? That's the tricky part for dispatch is we come to our own conclusions.
Yeah. So you're just picturing it.
Usually it's the worst. We picture the worst thing that could possibly happen. And 9 out of 10 times, it's not even like that.
I got to ask this, Commander, because you have a nice voice. So have you ever get like alguien que te diga, hey, you have a nice voice or that?
Well, I had a guy who was super intoxicated, and I knew he was intoxicated by the way he was acting. So I asked him for his name and date of birth, and he goes, "Are you? What did he say? Something like, are you flirting with me?" Or and I'm like, no. But he was so drunk. He was like party mode. So somebody asking him for his info to him probably equaled like somebody asking for his number or something.
I don't mean to ask these other questions.
Yeah.
I don't mean to be out of line, comadre, but you ever had like a firefighter or a cop be like, hey, you have a nice voice?
No.
¿Cómo te llamas?
No. I would have shut it down.
No, because I mean, there's people. Sometimes I
yeah.
talk to clients like or like over the phone. I'm like, man, I have a nice voice, and then te sientas con ellos like, oh, she's old.
Well, that's probably what they would say if they saw me in person. Actually, one of the cutest things, I know we're reaching time soon, but was I talked to an elderly guy, right? And I don't know if he was calling for an emergency, like a medical emergency or what, but I stayed on the phone with him until responders got there. And he goes, "Are you married?" And I was like, "I am." He goes, "Tell him he's such a lucky guy." So I went home and I told Bernie, I'm like, "Hey, you're never gonna believe this, but this is what somebody told me at work today." It was so cute. Oh, he knows he's lucky.
Yeah, he knows. Come on, let's tone it down with some final questions. What do you want your daughters to remember you about?
What do I want my daughters to remember me about? How hard I work, how much I love them. I feel like what I do every day is for them. So not to get choked up, but some of the sacrifices that I have made being in this career for them to have a better future and a place to live. You know, financially, it's been a great decision for us. But time-wise, that can be hard, right? So I want them to remember that everything that I've missed out on has been for their benefit, for a better future for them.
That's beautiful, comadre, because I think a lot of people will learn from this, especially realizing that, you know, sometimes what we do it with good intentions, even though we sacrifice a lot of time being away, you know, but as long as we always communicate that and let them know, like my dad, good example, my jefito, he's a truck driver, right?
That takes you away for a long time.
My dad was never there for my games. Was never there for anything. Pero yo nunca le agarré rencor. I never hold that against him. Never. I was never mad because my mom always told me, it's not that he doesn't love us. It's that because of him, you have shoes, you have clothes, we have a house, we have this, we have that. Your brothers have this, you know. So it's not that he doesn't love you. It's that he's providing for you guys. And so I feel like communication is the big key, you know, and the fact that you're doing that with your girls and my compa, it says a lot about it, you know, because sometimes it just either the individual is either too prideful or they're like, you know, but the fact that you're having that conversation, you know, makes a big difference.
Yeah, I want them to know that I'm not missing things because I want to.
Oh, you're preferring the job more than that?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. Where do you see yourself in the next 5 to 10 years?
5 to 10 years. Well, probably not retired as much as I'd like to say that. 5 to 10 years. So I would say maybe in a supervisor role.
Nice.
And supporting the girls through college, right? That's kind of the time frame, 5 to 10 years. Trying to figure out what life looks like for them next. And then also focusing more on my relationship with Bernie. You know, what do they call it? Empty nest, right?
Yeah.
It'll be just us again. And so trying to really get back to the roots of our relationship, traveling more maybe.
Yeah.
Love to travel. So 5 to 10 years, I think, setting ourselves up for success in our retirement because that's going to be right around the corner in 10 years. So
nice. What is one lesson in life that has taught you that you wish more people understood?
I think you never know what somebody's going through by just looking at them. And you should assume the best in people, even though people prove us wrong in that all the time. But you shouldn't base an interaction with somebody on preconceptions or the way that they're dressed or the way that they look, right? You should always assume good intentions with people. And that's really hard to do on the phone because we have nothing else to base our interactions
Just
with
the voice.
than the voice. And so when somebody's angry at us, calling us names, all that stuff, making sure that we keep in mind that most people call 911 on the worst day of their life. They're not calling us to say congratulations about something. They're calling us because they need help. And so I think that just assuming good intentions with people and not necessarily thinking the worst.
What is the one thing that you want our audience to understand about 911 dispatchers?
What I would like the audience to understand is that when you call 911, we're there to serve you. And the questions that we're asking are for the benefit of the situation.
Kind of the same thing, yeah.
Yeah, and they're never to take up more time. They're never to delay services. We're doing things simultaneously. We're doing all this stuff at the same time. And so me asking you 2 or 3 questions doesn't mean that your help is going to get delayed 2 or 3 minutes.
But something different, because I know you said that earlier.
Yeah.
But algo diferente que quieras que understand.
Don't be afraid to call for help.
And they do speak Spanish.
Despite your, even if you feel more comfortable speaking in another language, it doesn't even have to be Spanish, right? We have translation services, but don't be afraid to call for help. Maybe your concern doesn't end up being a police matter or other type of matter, but we try our best to educate the public on ways that they can take to resolve the issue.
One thing that we did talk about earlier was that not a lot of people are aware that there's a non-emergency. Any recommendations where they could find that number or where to look at to get it?
Yeah, so Google is a great service. Most non-emergency numbers are listed there, or look up your local agency's website, and they'll have a non-emergency number listed there as well. Call 411. I think 411 is still a thing, right?
Yeah.
411 and ask them for, I haven't had to call 411. But you could call information and say, hey, what's the non-emergency number for, whatever agency?
Last question that I ask all my guests. I know you answered the beginning, but I got to ask you, maybe you have something else different. If you could go back in time and see a Areli chiquita, ¿qué le dijeras? What would you say to her? Different answer from the one that you answered at the beginning.
I think, how old are we talking? Like when I moved here, 8 years old?
Yeah. When you were struggling, when you felt out of place, when you felt sad, when picked out. If you could go back to that time, what would you tell yourself?
I would tell myself, it's all going to be okay. It's all going to be okay, and you are worth more than you think you are at this point in your life. Because I am worth so much more. And
yes, you are.
It's taken me a long time to figure that out, but yeah.
No, that's awesome. Well, comadre, I don't know if you want to share this, but if people want to connect with you and they want to follow your journey, feel free to share your social media if you have one. If you want people to send you a message, if they have a question regarding dispatching or anything, if you want to do that,
Yeah, I can share. My profile is private, so they would have to probably message me before being able to look at my profile. But it's Frida Lover.
Okay.
Frida, like Frida Kahlo. Frida Lover 27, and that's my Instagram handle.
Okay. So if any of you guys have any questions, or you guys could DM me, I could ask her, and we'll go from there. Well, comadre, thank you for taking the time of your day.
Thank you,
compadre. Being here, sharing your journey, bringing the light of dispatching. I learned a lot today. You
gotta come do a sit along.
I'm gonna take that. I gotta do a sit along. I gotta go do a ride along with my prima in Gilroy. So, I gotta do that. But thank you, because I learned a lot from dispatching. Now I see what you guys go through and the hard work you guys put in, the long hours. So not only that, but I got to see the other side of your mother and being a wife and how hard it is to balance both of them. So thank you for sharing your journey, comadre.
Thank you, compa, for having me.
With that being said, guys, we're out.